Hello, Rick Malava here. My nickname in the forums is CTBRAM with another little short video tutorial. Rather than typing in the thread, I find it a lot easier just to put my headset on, jump into Maya, and quickly throw this stuff together. And this is for Hermy1988, who's just learning Maya, and he's modeling this desktop from Final Fantasy VIII, I think, yes. And I've been following the thread, and you've gotten some good advice from Dave and the gang, but it looks like you're kind of struggling a little bit because you're just new to Maya and possibly new to modeling. So I thought rather than kind of describe some of the errors that I'm seeing in your work, I would just go through and show you how I would model this. It's probably not the only way you could do it, and it may not be the best way you can do it, but I'm hoping I can give you some good tips and pointers to help improve your modeling along the way and give you some ideas on how to model this piece here. So let's get started. It looks like there's like an oval section here and then a circular section here, and the two pieces are connected together, and then this whole thing looks like it's shrunk a little bit, duplicated down here, and then you've got this circular section that acts as a stand on one end and an oval section that sort of mimics the shape of this part of the table that supports this end. So pretty straightforward stuff. Let's get started. What have I got up here? Something wacky. Okay. So a little flashing thing on one of my other screens. So let's get started here. I'm going to just turn on my grid for a second, and I'm going to go into a top view, and let's draw out a cylinder. So I'm going to come in here and do a create polygon cylinder. Lately I've been using the interactive creation, so I'm just going to go with that. So let's draw it out and give it a little bit of thickness, and then come over here to the channel box, and after the fact let's make it, we're going to eyeball this, so I'm just going to pick these numbers out of my butt here, 30 units, and let's make it 2 units high. And now the subdivision, the number of sides that you want in your cylinder here, you don't want to make your geometry too heavy, and so thinking a little bit ahead here, I'm probably going to connect 4 of these faces to 4 faces on the other side. I could probably go 3 to 3, which means I could make this 12, but 16 is not too bad, so let's just start with that. So there's our first disk, and now let's put it at the origin by grabbing all these translation X, Y, and Z translation values here and just set them to 0, and that slaps it to the origin. So now let's take and copy this, Control Duplicate, go back to the top view, and let's pull it over here. And then let's come over here to the scale values and grab the X, and then holding the Control key down, grab the Z, and just type in 0.75 and make it 75% of the size of this one. And like I said, I am just completely eyeballing this, so we're winging it here, baby. So now let's come in here, and now the larger portion was an oval shape, so let's grab it, hit the scale key, and just stretch it out to make it an oval. So there we go. Now, very quickly, you saw a little yellow thing flash up down here, and it said something, warning, non-object space scale baked into components. If you see that happen, that just means that you have your scale tool, you've taken it off of the default options, and that message will come up when that happens. If it does, either just hold the left mouse button down and the R key together, or the R key and then the left mouse button. And in my case, it's world mode already, so there must be something else set up. So you can just double click on the scale tool, or hit the scale tool, and then go to the tool settings and just hit reset tool, and you can see a bunch of things changed here. So by default it's object, and it was in world, and that's why I was complaining. So anyway, just don't worry if you see that. When these errors pop up, I like to explain what they are so that you're not wondering when it happens to you. Now this grid's in my way right now, so I'm going to just hide it so we're not looking at the grid. And so now I want to take and combine these two pieces together, so I need to combine them. So pick the small circle and the big circle, or the big circle and the small circle, however you want to do it. And then hold the shift key down and the right mouse button and come down here to combine. There we go. Now the geometry should be combined, but it didn't. Let's try that again. Okay, that time it worked. So now come over here, and I want to join these two together, so I'm going to grab these 4 faces, right, and these 4 faces. So pick a face, hold the shift key down, pick a face, come over here and double click this face, and it will select all the faces between the 2 clicks if you're using Maya 2009 or above Actually, it may be 2010 or above. If not, you just have to manually select them. So with those faces selected, I can come down here and once again hold the Shift key down, the right mouse button, come down and pick Bridge. And there we go, we bridged across the two. Now, if your bridge gets messed up, go to the channel box and you'll see offset here. And I'll just demonstrate what it will look like if it's off by holding down the middle mouse button, and you see that it turns into the left-right facing arrow there. And if I scrub, you can see that offset value changes, and you can see that all of a sudden now my bridge is all twisted. So when you see this happen, you just come here, select the bridge, and then scrub until eventually it will, even if the number is greater than 1, it will eventually keep wrapping around until the bridge is actually bridging the correct faces to the correct faces. In our case, 0 worked, so we'll just set it back to 0. Now, if I smooth this at this point, it all becomes doughy because I don't have any support edges. Now, the way that you can get these edges to actually have a little bit of tension is if you, when Maya goes to smooth this, it interpolates 3 edges. So when it goes to smooth around this corner right here, it's going to look at this edge, and this edge, and it's going to try to interpolate the curvature between them. And it'll come back from this side and do the same thing up in this direction. So the basic message is, if you want a corner to be tight, you put 3 edges close together. If you want the corner to be looser, you put 3 edges a little more relaxed or farther apart. So what I want to do in this case is I want this to be rounded, because if we look at the original artwork over here, you can see these edges are pretty round, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this face and all the faces around the table, and the first thing I'm going to do is I want to create a little edge all the way around this object. And you see if I created one around the circle here and then tried to create an edge along here, it wouldn't flow properly. So here's a little technique for you. If you grab all the outside edges and then you come over here, hold the Shift key down and come down to Extrude. I tend to use the pie menus more than the other menus. I'll leave it to you to figure out where those are at. If you go into Edit, Mesh, Extrude Face. I haven't used the drop-down menus in so long I hardly even know where anything's at anymore. And they change it around from version to version. But anyway, I've hit Extrude, and now I just grab this blue handle and pull it out. And now what you see is we get this nice control edge all the way around the piece. Alright? And so at this point, I've got an edge here, and an edge here, and then this edge down here. So it's going to sort of round that off based on the distance. So right now, if I pull this out a little bit farther, like right there, and I smooth this, you'll see I'll get a fairly round edge. It's still squared off a little bit because it's flat and there's a long distance along here. If you really want to smooth it, now that I've added this extra loop around by extruding all of the side faces out, I have an added advantage because now I can come here and select, double click this edge, and it will select the edge loop all the way around the whole piece. Whereas if I hadn't added this extruded edge here and I tried to click this piece, it would only go so far and then it will stop, and then you'll have to manually click it around. It's hard to pick all of the perimeter edges. So that's another advantage of pulling out this little these section of support faces here. So I'm going to come in here and double click this edge, and I'm going to double click the edge underneath it. Now this is going to add some geometry, but there are some advantages here. Depending on how many divisions we put between these sections, you may not even have to smooth this object, and you'll keep your poly count fairly low. But what we're gonna do here now is, with those 2 edges loops selected all the way around the piece, we're going to come in here and go to Bevel Edge. Holding the Shift key down, the right mouse button, this pie menu will come up, and it's context sensitive, so I have edges selected, so Bevel Edge is an option that I can go to now. So when I click Bevel Edge, it does that, right? So it actually starts to round this out for us. And if I smooth this now, right, now it's very nice and round, very smooth, round transition, and it's actually got a fairly tight edge up here now because these edges are closer together. And you can adjust this bevel by coming into the bevel node and hitting the offset key. And right now, if I middle mouse and scrub, that value will change. Okay, and it's fairly easy to control right now because I have an option turned on that I turned on before I started the video, and I tend to always do this. But if you come up here, you see this little tiny pie and the little what looks like the little axis manipulator. If I click on that twice, this pie becomes available, and if I click the pie, you see larger chunks of the pie get selected. That controls the rate when you scrub a value, right? When I set the pie up here by default, it's almost the full pie. And if I grab this now and try to scrub it, you can see it just goes from full to empty. It's nearly impossible to control. But if I slow down the scrub rate by double-clicking on this pie, and then I like to put the little axis manipulator back to the mode where you see red, green, and blue. And then I come down here, select offset. Now I can control this very accurately, and I can put a nice round in it like that. Okay? So now when I come in here, right, and if I came in here and I turned all of these edges to soft, right, it's actually, the edges look rounded, but you're getting faceting here, and that's because I chose 16 faces to start with. There's 16 sides on these cylinders to start with. If you didn't want to smooth this at all, you'd just start with a circle that has more faces, but in this case I like the idea of smoothing, so that rounds those out very nicely, and everything looks about the right size. So the next thing I want to do is put that bend in it. So once again, we want to keep the geometry light, so I'm just going to split one edge in here. I'm going to grab this guy here, and I'm going to come down here and go to Insert Edge Loop Tool, go to its options, and then use the Use Equal Multiplier and set it to 1, and click, and it'll put an edge right between the two. It'll split these faces in half. And then what I can do is go to Vertex Mode, pick all of these guys, go to the E key for the rotation manipulator, hit the Insert key so that we can position where we want the center of the pivot to be. I'm going to put it right there, hit the Insert key again, and now I can come down here and add the bend I want. Okay, so now we got the bend. Now when I added that bend in, I noticed that this face is getting short and this face is getting long. So from the top view, I'm just going to manually clean my geometry up. Hit the Q key to drop that tool, go to Vertex, and then hit the W key for the translate manipulator, and just from the top view, I'm going to manually sort of put these in the middle again. And I noticed that it seems to narrow out a little bit, so I'm going to take these actually and manually take them and narrow them, at least from that edge there, okay? And just try not to be too anal about things, but get them lined up nicely like that. Now when I smooth it, there we go, we got the bend. Okay, so there's the bend. Now, as long as this thing, and you're just starting, so I'm just going to give you this piece of information. As long as a face is planar and you don't intend to deform it, if it is an end gun, you won't see any anomalies when you smooth the object. See, the tops of the faces are just fine. They'll texture fine, everything will be fine. But it's a good practice to try to keep your geometry in quads. Sometimes you can't avoid the occasional triangle, but any end gun, which is a polygon that has more than 4 sides, can always be turned into quads by cutting it up. Okay. Now a lot of times I don't worry about circular surfaces like this because I know they're going to be flat and I know they're not going to be deformed, and I don't have to work within a studio pipeline. I don't have a technical director that's yelling at me. But if you ever are working in the industry, quote unquote, people will yell at you if you don't have quads sometimes, and there are some people that don't really understand the whole idea of the fact that if a surface is planar and doesn't deform, it doesn't matter if it's an end gun. They just hear from somebody else that end guns are bad, and they will yell at you, and if you don't like being yelled at, it's better just to fix it. So let me show you how I can quickly turn these guys into quads. I just come up here to my split polygon tool, which is under Edit, Mesh, and there's a new version of this. This is the older version. You can still access the older version. I prefer it. And all I have to do is come in here and just split this guy up. Okay, so now it's got 2 sets of polygons with 8. Now it's got 2 sets of polygons with 6. And now if I come in here and split it from here, I didn't drop the tool first, and now if I split it from here to here, and there's lots of ways to split this up. I'm just doing it this way, and if I split it from here to here to here. Now you can see, if we count these sides, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 polygons in each one of these pie faces, and there's of course 4 polygons between all 4-sided polygons through here. So that's all quads. So I'll split this one up just to show you again. Split it across, and then I'll split it across again, right, and then I'll split it like this. If you miss your edge, you can just hit the delete key, and that'll undo your last operation, and then you can come in here and try it again and get it right. Right, so, and then finally from here to here to here. Okay, so there's the top, and it's all quads, and I can do the bottoms down here. I'm going to quickly pause the video for a second and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and I've done the split up that bottom oval and circular shape, so everything is all quads now. So 1 second, my dog is barking. Alright, so here we go again. So here we are, we got this guy done. So the last thing to do is make the little stand that goes underneath, and the other little version of this that sits below it. So I'm going to come in here, and to create those little pedestals, I'm going to come in and hit Vertex. I'm going to pick that vertex and that vertex by holding the Shift key down. Then I'm going to hold the Control key down and right mouse button, and I'm going to go 2 faces, and that picks those 2 sets of faces down there. So now what I'll do is, let's duplicate those faces. So come down here, holding the Shift key down, right mouse button, go down to Duplicate Face. Whenever you duplicate faces in Maya, it puts them in a group. So if I come in the group over here and open it up, you'll see I've got the original surface and the 2 faces I created, so there's 3, and then this transform node that gets created. I usually come in here and go Edit, ungroup them, and then delete history. I do that so often that I've created a Mel script to do it, so it's up here in my shelf bar, and I just basically hit that, and basically you can see now I've got the 3 individual surfaces. So now if I take that surface and that surface, and I come over here once again, hold the Shift key down. When you have surfaces instead of faces, or objects instead of faces, for some reason the context menu doesn't give you the extrude option, so I have it up here in my shelf button. It's also this is a rare time that you'll see me do this. I'll actually bring up this window here and you can see there's extrude right up here. So we'll just do it the way I like to do it, and come up here and hit the extrude button, and then I can pull these guys down. There we go. So there's our little pedestals for our desk. And then finally, if I smooth these guys now, if I try to smooth these, they're going to become all mushy. So since these are going to be sitting on the floor, I can actually just get rid of the faces at the top and the bottom. So I can, if I hit the undo key, the Z key, a couple times, I can go back, and I can just hit the delete key to delete the faces we initially extruded, and then I can come up here and do that same little trick. I can do vertex, pick that vertex. Well, actually, since these are facing upward, let's just not pick the top of the table here. It's easier just to do this. And then I can just go face mode and pick all of these guys, delete them, and go to face mode and pick all of these guys and delete them. And those cylinders now become cylinders. That's odd. I've got a little lumpy, bumpy thing here. Something has gone awry here. Let me very quickly delete this. Let's look at this down here and see what happened. If I turn on vertex mode, I've probably got some floating vertices. And I sure do. Yeah, when I did my splits, I wasn't careful and I went out to the end here. So if I take this vertex and I hold the Shift key down and the right mouse button, I can go to Vertex, Merge Vertex tool, and merge these guys properly. I don't want to merge it that way. I want to merge it this way. Okay. Hopefully I didn't do that in more than one place. Quickly going around and checking, and yeah, that's the only place I did that. So be careful. The moral of the story is when you're splitting polygons. So I can make these the same height. I'm going to do the same process again. So I'm going to start by picking this one and delete it. And here we go again. pick that vertex and that vertex, holding the control key down this time and the right mouse button, go to two faces, and then take those faces, holding the shift right key down, go to duplicate faces, come up here and basically ungroup this and delete the history, then pick the two faces and then go to well, it's once again, this is the one thing that's not in the context menu, so come up here and extrude and then pull these guys down. Right, and then while those faces are selected, hit the delete key, come in here, pick this guy, go to faces and just select those guys and delete them. Hit this guy, faces, these faces, delete them, and then come over here, get to object mode and pick these guys, and when I hit the 3 for smooth preview, you can see we get these nice smooth cylindrical things, and the top here has got this sharp crease in it, but when I hit the 3 key to smooth it, you see we get a nice smooth surface that has that bend in it that you're looking for. And now all you have to do is take this surface and go Control D to duplicate it, hit the W key, pull it down, and that's pretty much what you've got in the picture there. This cylinder is actually a little smaller, and this inner surface that I pulled down looks like it's a little smaller as well, or this top surface is a little bigger. I can just pick it and hold the control key down and do that, and that actually looks a little closer. If you look, this cylinder is actually kind of close to that inner edge. I might have gone a little overboard, maybe like that, something like that. And there we go. That's pretty close representation. It looks like, no, well, we're still off a little bit, because when I stretch this out, it oh, I grabbed, that's what I did. I accidentally, it's my bad. Let me shrink this back again. If you grow this upper table, once again, I'm growing it from this point, so it's going to stretch out that way. So what I'd have to do is grab this guy's center, its pivot, and then up here, and you can't really stretch it too much or else but that's better. So now it's larger. So there we go. Top surface is a little larger than this one, and you got these nice rounded edges here. This guy's still off a little bit, so what I could do for that is center its pivot and just shrink it a little bit like that so that it fits. And this one looks pretty good where it's at, so there we go. So anyway, that's just me being anal. And there you go. That's how I would model this thing. So I hope this helps you out, gets you a little bit farther along, and you learned a little bit about things like support edges and the order of operations that you do things in. This little trick of extruding this boundary edge around it so that you get this nice edge loop that you can select here, and it also controls the tightness of this round on the end of the table. The whole idea of creating quads, once again, I could have split this up in a lot of ways to get quads, but that's a quick way to do cylindrical surfaces. I found is to create these four-sided pie wedges, and that's pretty much it. So there you go. Good luck with your modeling, and I hope this helps you out.